While Standard & Poor's has cut Mozambique's credit ratings outlook to negative, this after the government revised economic data that signaled a wider current account gap than estimated. Joining me on the line now is Fernando Lemos, the chairman and CEO of Media Coop, who's joining us on the line. Thank you so much for joining us today, Fernando. I just want to get straight into it because this looks as though it's a bit of a catch-22 because we're having a downgrade because of donor reliance, but it's the very same donors that we need in order to drive economic growth.
Well, that's a very important point you are raising, because on one hand you still you are still dependent on donor funding, but on the other hand you have a growing finance investment coming from international companies investing in such projects as coal and gas. But the point is, Mozambique needs to play this kind of first league finances in order to balance its own budget and in order to have its accounts balanced, and so not to just, for example, this year to be dependent on occasional funding coming from outside, namely from companies that have sold some assets related to gas, and that's what had come to rescue on some deficit in local budget. And so you cannot be have such dependency on this kind of extra monies that come to your budget. But still, this reflects the shortcomings of Mozambique's economy as it enters this new level of economic growth related to big projects as such as coal and gas.
But Fernando, the finance minister seems to think that everything is okay there in terms of tax revenues have increased. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I think Minister Shang, the finance minister, has reasons to be very positive, because not only these new revenues related to gas contributions are coming to the budget, as well as new contributions are being expected this year and next year, since kind of middle-level players are giving up on bigger players related to gas projects in Rovuma Basin. And of course, the Ministry of Finance is aware of that, and is aware that it can play mega projects in order to try to balance our budget deficit. On the other hand, and despite these are just figures, the figures that have been released by Center for Promotion for Foreign Investment, still a significant inflow of new investment is expected to come to Mozambique, and again related to natural resources. And that's how the Ministry of Finance believes that it will be able to ameliorate, to improve its budget deficit.
But what do you think is the likelihood of another ratings downgrade? Because there's still a 33% that we still need to account for, the money that the government doesn't have at the moment. Well,
I think these things has an important impact on Mozambican government and Mozambican authorities, especially the authorities dealing with the finance. Mozambique is not used to deal with those ratings and those agencies, and so it's more the relation of the government is basically with the donors. They have these agreements on a number of items, even political items, and that's what counts up to now. That was what was important, how you perform in order to meet agreements that you have established in principle with donors. We are playing a completely new game, and this has to do with the finances, with the budget, and how you balance your budget. So Mozambican authorities need to be very, very carefully monitoring those figures and monitoring budget figures and its deficit in order to align their finances on international standards. And this is completely a new game for the Mozambican authorities. So to such an extent, these qualifications and notations from agencies like Standard & Poor's or Fitch are very important for the Mozambican authorities.
Well, thank you so much, Fernando, for that insight. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there. That was Fernando Lemos, the chairman and CEO of Media Coup.